Hello, my name is Timosha, and I'm continuing with my discussion on the attempted murder by rogue agents of the Department of the Navy, including Nathan R. Brown and Kendra Ortiz. Um as I said, these people that I worked with in the Department of the Navy retaliating against my right to petition and my reporting harassment and engaging in equal employment opportunity complaints, and also with the Office of Special Counsel and Inspector General complaints. I'd reported fraud, waste, and misconduct and mismanagement, and of course, I was reporting directly to the Auditor General of the Navy, Don Jet L. Gilmore, directly, right? So these people retaliated against me and then started to falsify records, which is illegal, right? First of all, the federal government is supposed to have a zero tolerance policy with respect to harassment, right, and sexual harassment. So um, let me continue with. So sometime in October, just less than a month of my starting, I was harassed by a female that had been there. Let me first describe the group I was in. Excuse me. Um, so I was in a team. I was the only black male. I was the only male, in fact. And then I was put in this group. It was the first time I'd ever been in this work situation. And I thought, okay, this is cool. They were all females, right? There were three women, and I was the only male. There were three black women, all of them. They were all black women. They would make derogatory statements, you know, silly statements like, "Oh, they know, that women are smarter than men," things like that. I'm the only black person. I'm the only male there, but they'd make these comments, but no big deal. Um, well, the person I was reporting to, my manager had a CPA, and of course, I'm qualified to take the CPA exam. So for me, it was interesting because it would be another notch in my belt. I was on a track to take. There's a certification that we have for the government for financial management. So that was what I was required to take. But this person expressed her interest in me taking the CPA as well. Of course, I canceled my bar exam. I was planning to take my bar exam, but I canceled it in order to go and work for the Department of Defense. Now I was I'd moved to Department of the Navy. But of course, I was going to get all the certifications, qualifications that they wanted me to get. People who know me, my background, I roll up my sleeves and work. Right, I don't have time for. I don't mess around in terms of my career, and my resume speaks for itself. So, but the federal government, of course, was different, right? It was a different kettle of fish. So this was what I was experiencing. So this person who'd been there for 16 years, and she was in the military, right? She joined the military. She was very abusive. She was supposed to be reviewing my work, but she got so abusive. She was very unprofessional. Without any reason. People who know me, I came from a banking background. I was client facing. I was a relationship manager. I was a financial advisor, right? So I have relationship management skills, right? The banks invested in those relationship management, skills, right? In me, they invested lots of money to build relationship management skills in me, right? This person just had no. Um, he just had no. Maybe she was phoning and she would brown nose to who she felt was relevant and she was supposed to brown nose to. But with respect to me, there was some kind of animus going on, right? It was just animus, and uh, maybe her goal was to harass me. I do not know, but I told the auditor general. The auditor general had said I should report it to HR, and she initially suggested that okay, that I should move out of the directorate, that there are other directorates that want me. She was sending me leads. She was the head of the agency, and there were these other openings, and I'm qualified. But I just started. So I didn't want to be bouncing around. So I was like, okay, I'll handle whatever it is, it's little. Then I thought, but the harassment escalated in a short time. And if you're in a very toxic environment, you shouldn't just sit there because you don't know why the person, especially I didn't know why the person was acting in the way she was acting, and it disrupts the work. I'm working for the government to say thank you and to do my service. That was all it was. Support the taxpayer, support the war fighter, as we call it, and cut costs, help save costs for the taxpayer, make the money, the dollars, the tax American taxpayer spends, make it have value. But this person just spent so much time being toxic and combative. I couldn't understand it. But the Auditor General's fix at that time was like, hey, they're harassing you. Sorry you're experiencing this. Just go to another directorate. There are other directorates that want you. But again, I just started. I couldn't be bouncing around like that. I didn't want that. So I decided, okay, I decided to tell, because up until then, I had a very good rapport with my manager, who was female as well. My manager was from Haiti. She had a CPA. She'd been there for a long time. So I thought, okay, let me tell my manager. So I told my manager. I didn't realize that was probably one of the worst things. So my manager, first of all, responded well, and she said, hey, I should give her grace. That was how she put it. I still remember her phrase. I should give the other person grace, that, maybe that person, sometimes that people do things and, they don't know that they're doing it. And she said she'll try and talk to her to make the situation better. So that was what I did. So I thought that would resolve it. Of course, the Auditor General's solution was like, okay, I should go and report it to HR, because the Auditor General herself was saying that, look, these people are terrible. And eventually I came to see, because there was a meeting we once had, the Auditor General of the Navy, head of the agency, right? She had a big, huge meeting once, and the Assistant Secretary of the Navy was there, the Inspector General of the Navy was there. When the Auditor General spoke, the way they disrespected her because she's a black woman, I thought other black people would respect her, show her respect, because she's the first black woman to hold that position. The way they talked to her, I came to realize, oh, okay, that's what's going on. They wouldn't even give her respect. How can, they show a colleague respect? I came to realize, okay, why she couldn't control that. That's how they disrespect her as well. It wasn't the same person; it was somebody else. I couldn't believe it. What I was seeing the day this person was disrespecting the Auditor General in an open environment, open space. That because it was a huge meeting, just disrespectful. I couldn't believe it. So I decided to tell our manager. My manager talked to me. She talked in a polite way. She showed empathy at the time and said, okay, that I should, give her grace, that maybe the person that she's going to talk to her. So eventually one day, so she called me. She called me on my phone because I mostly worked. It was remote. She called me on my cell phone, and then she told me she had the other person on the line. And she didn't tell me. So it was like I was just blindsided, the other person was on the line. And so she said she wanted us to resolve this matter, blah, blah, blah. So this person is trying to resolve you're trying to resolve a matter, and I told her in confidence what happened. The manager didn't tell me she was going to go and tell the other person. She just told me that she'd get her to change her style or something. I didn't know she would go and she just blindside me and call do a conference call and everything. And so she goes, she wants us to talk it out. And this person now started making fresh new accusations. She just made something to, she made a complete fabrication. about what I was doing. She just started lying and accusing me of doing things that I'd never done. I was stunned over the phone. The my manager had called saying that okay, that her objective was, so she called me and said, look, the other person's on the line. And she said her objective was for us to talk it out, to resolve whatever was going on. Because I was the one who went to go and report to my manager that, look, this is what this person is doing. She's harassing me in the way she talks. She just, it's toxic, it's abusive. She's been very abusive. She's created a hostile work environment. She's very abusive. I told the Auditor General of the Navy, who was my mentor. I talked with her every day, and she said, "Look, go and report it to HR, or and then move to another directorate. They don't want you. They're acting like they don't want you. There are other directorates that want you. We're looking for people. We're hiring. They're openings." She told me, "Look, the other places." But again, my thought at the time was like, "Look, the devil you know is better than the angel you don't know. I don't want to go from uh the frying pan to into the fire, right? And I don't know what I'm going to meet. you know I need to be able to work it out, at least be able to handle it. Maybe there's some way, because it was unusual. The way this person was acting was unusual, because if she was just plain like that, this person was clearly crazy and should be nowhere. We were working in a classified area. She should not be anywhere there, because there were signs that she was unstable. Because so whatever she was doing it on purpose. With other people, she was mild or calm, but with me, she just it was like I just gored her or ox, man. I don't know. So she now made these fresh accusations. The manager called me to that. Okay, let's resolve it. Let's talk it out. She now made these spurious accusations false on the phone. So I just said, hey, you know what? I can't do this. I need to get off the phone, right? And I said, I think, I'd been told to go to report it to the HR. So I think that's the best thing. Let me just go to HR, because she made these fresh accusations completely false. So I told the Auditor General, immediately I told I texted the Auditor General because I was surprised. I texted her, what she'd said. The Auditor General said, whoa, that go to HR immediately. So when the other person had reacted the way she had, the person in the military, right? When she reacted in the way she did, in the negative way she did, making false accusations, right? Um, my manager asked me, apologized to me and said, you know what, because they were supposed to travel, they were traveling for something. So my manager said, okay, you know what, she's going to tell, as she would call it, leadership, right? Leadership. I was going to tell her boss and the whatever, and so they would resolve it, right? That I should wait for a week. And she told me, because I was like, I'm going to go to HR, because I said it right there when she made the false accusations. I said, you know what, these accusations are false. And of course, being trained in the law, I read during orientation, they give us the rule book, right? The rule book, your rights, obligations, everything. And what she was saying violated the rules, right? We're supposed to be free from false accusations, defamation, many things, Those are things that in the book they say it can disqualify any federal civil servant. But here she was doing exactly what the rules book says she's not supposed to do, making false accusations, lying. I had gone to report her. I reported, they didn't know I knew the Auditor General of the Navy and I used to tell her stuff. They didn't know that. The Auditor General had originally told me I should go and report her to HR, right, and EU. I didn't, because I thought, okay, I can't just keep reporting people. I had already reported somebody, right, in the DOD, the Pentagon. So I thought, okay, I can't keep reporting people. Because I'd never experienced this in the private sector. This was now the public sector, federal government. And especially since the way the federal government quoted me, I didn't want to blow it. They had confidence in me. This was now the second position that they'd offered me within 1 year. They'd offered me two positions, right? I was a John S. McCain Strategic Defense Fellow. I was picked number one in my cohort. That was very impressive for me. It got me the top secret TSSCI clearance. It was impressive for me. Here I was again in a classified area. The work I was doing was fantastic. I loved the work where I was, who I was supporting. I loved it. So I was like, no, I'm just going to do my work. That's it. Focus on what it is that I'm supposed to do. So, but uh, when I went back and when I got off the phone. No, before I got off the phone, so the manager said, "Okay, you know what? She's going to that she didn't know this, that there's something going on. She didn't know both of us felt the way she put it, that she didn't know both of us felt so passionate or something like that about it, about the matter. Which passion? I didn't know her from. I didn't know this person from Adam. I don't go home and sleep or think about her. I don't. I'm just saying I don't want to have to work with her. I don't know her from Adam. I don't know what she meant about being passionate about it or anything. No, I thought the person I was working with was clearly disturbed, right? So, so she, the my manager said, okay, you know what? That she's going to try and tell the um, the head, not the auditor general, but the head of our team. That's two steps, above. The leadership is the term she kept using. She's going to tell leadership. So she said I should wait, give them a week because they were traveling. She said, okay, I should wait. So I texted. So I accepted that because she was like, okay, instead I shouldn't go to HR. She said it's your right to go to HR, but she appealed to me. She said I should because my manager and I, we got along. We got along at that time. Up until that time, we got along. I respected her because she was a CPA. She'd been in the federal government for a decade. In fact, she came from the comptroller's office, which was kind of interesting, where I had been assigned to at one time. So, which was kind of like bizarre. So she was new as well. We started at the same time, right? Because she transferred from the Pentagon to the Navy, so we started at the same time. And I learned that she was sort of relying on this person who had been in the Navy for like 16 years, and so she was bonding with them or whatever, because even though she was her boss, right? So I texted the auditor general telling her, okay, that she said I shouldn't go to HR because the auditor general had said I should go and report it to HR, and I didn't, or that I should go to another directorate, but I should report it to HR. He told me to do those two things. But I didn't want to. I didn't. Especially, I knew I didn't want to get her in trouble. I knew when you go and tell HR stuff, it's the federal government. They document everything, right? But when I told the auditor general, it was so. I texted her. It was so bizarre. She called me. She called me, and she's very busy. You can imagine the head of the agency, the auditor general. She called me immediately. She said, "Hey, go and report that to HR immediately." She said, "Don't pay attention to what they're doing." Because I let her know that she said I should give her a week, that they're going to tell the Nephateria McBride, right? Nephateria McBride is the one who had invited me to Starbucks. And I should, she'd invited me to Starbucks. I'd reported that to the auditor general. She said that was inappropriate. Um, she said, hey, what they're going to do is they're not trying to resolve anything. They're not trying to figure out anything. They're going to just come out and make stuff up and fire you. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to fire you. If you wait, she called me. She said, if you wait, they're going to fire you. They're going to go and make up stuff. So first of all, it was stunning me that, wait, I mean, all of that is illegal, right? What the auditor general was telling me they were going to do was illegal because they're not supposed to do it. So I was telling the auditor general, she was like, hey, but it's the government. That's what that used to be her standard response when I'm telling her, the auditor general, that, but what you're telling me that they're going to do is illegal. That's not what the rules book says. She just say it's the government. Like, can you prove it? That it's the government. That's what she would say. Hey, that's how they do it in the government. That's how they do it in the government. She said, well, it's up to you. That she can't. It's up to me if I want to wait, but Don't say I didn't tell you. That was what she told me. That's the Auditor General. And I thought it was bizarre again because it was the auditor, she was the head of the agency. She could have put a stop to it, because anyway. So I thought about it. It took a long time. So I was like, I don't want to go to HR and make a mountain out of a molehill, right? Because initially it just seemed like it was something trivial, right? And they told me that, okay, they're going to fix it when they come back in a week. So I thought, okay, it's the Auditor General. If she's telling me this is what's going to happen, I should just do it. So I did. It took a long time. In fact, it was a night that I wrote penned it, and I said, okay, you know what? She told me to ask for a transfer. That's what the Auditor General said. She said, they can't stop me, right? That's my right. I'm allowed to ask for a transfer. If I ask the HR, they have to transfer me, and that there are openings. So I should ask for a transfer to a new directorate. And they have to give me priority because I'm facing a toxic environment. That's what she told me. So I emailed her and I told her. I emailed HR and I told them. That same night, not long after the Nephateria McBride responded, they didn't know I'd been telling the Auditor General that it was the Auditor General that was telling me what to do. Immediately, she responded at night, apologizing that she's so sorry about what I'm experiencing, but that let's have a meeting tomorrow, and she wants to try and resolve this. That this is an internal matter that she wished I'd come to her first. That was one of the things she said. She said it in a polite way in the email, right? Because HR had I sent it to HR. So she said in a polite way, she said, okay, that she didn't know, like blah, blah, blah. That was what she claimed that she did. She wasn't aware of this, but she wants to have a meeting tomorrow and, we'll resolve it. This was November the 3rd that I sent the email. So November 4th. November 1st, she had a meeting with me at Starbucks, right? In which she was sort of trying to get fresh with me. And then she was asking me for my age. She was telling me about her relationship with her husband, how her husband cheated on her. It was a weird meeting. I saw that, okay, it looked like she was trying to get fresh with me, which I wasn't interested in. She was my boss's boss. That was not what I was interested in. And you know, so uh, but it was something good came out. I mean, I learned something. It was from there that I learned that that the actual offer that they had given me was higher. So I learned that HR had actually lied. The Kendra Ortiz, who was director in HR, had lied and falsified, what the offer was for her own reasons. It didn't make sense to me, right? So eventually, I showed up the next day. We had the meeting. Nathan Brown was there because they were overseas, right? He was, I think, not just in there. They were doing some work, right? So Nathan Brown was there. Nephateria McBride was there. My manager, Ruth Pollard, was there. The one with the CPA. So we talked. So my manager first expressed her disappointment. That was the first thing she said. She said she's disappointed that I went to go and report to HR, even though she had asked me not to go to HR. She's disappointed. That was the first thing. I couldn't tell her that, hey, it's the Auditor General that told me to go to HR. I wasn't going to go because she was like, hey, that she thought she had told me not to go to HR and I'd agreed not to go to HR or whatever, that I'd indicated to her that I wasn't going to go to HR. So she first expressed her disappointment. And then Nephateria McBride also looked angry. She looked very angry. Nathan Brown was saying stuff about, oh, that's maybe people, he was just saying weird philosophical stuff. He didn't seem like he was, anyway, let me not put it that way. He was saying, oh, that maybe some people, it's their upbringing, the environment that they grew up in. That's why they behave that way. I don't know why he said that, but that was what he was saying. So I expressed, I said what was up. So I said no, that I want to go to another directorate. I didn't tell them it was the Auditor General who told me to ask to go to another directorate. Um, and at this time they didn't know I knew the Auditor General. ostensibly, that's what the Auditor General let me believe, right? She made me believe that they didn't know that I knew her. In fact, because one day she came to where we used to be, where we used to work, and they introduced me. That's Nephateria McBride. She introduced me to the Auditor General, and we pretended, I mean, at least the Auditor General represented as if she was meeting me for the first time, right? So, so they didn't know that, okay, I used to talk to the Auditor General. The Auditor General said, don't let them know that if they know that what this was what she told me. She said, if they know that I know her, they're gonna they're gonna try and get me fired. Which was bizarre. This was just all strange stuff. The things she was telling me, it was just strange. It was crazy because this was unethical. This is supposed to be the federal government, and we have rules, right? It's rules that guide how we conduct ourselves in the federal government. It's not the private sector that you can act arbitrarily. But here was the Auditor General telling me that, okay, hey, forget the rules, that this is what really happens, and which is a huge disservice to our operations and our service to the American people. But in any event, so initially I didn't say anything to them. So here was Nephateria McBride now saying that, okay, that hey, she's is there anything that she can do to keep me? That she doesn't want to lose me. That she thinks I'm an asset. She talked about how she doesn't like drama. That look, what about if she moves me to another team? Within the because she had within her directorate, she headed the directorate I was in. So she said, "What if I go into another team so I don't have to work with the person who was harassing me?" you know, and because of the way she talked to me, she said, "Look, that you're an asset." She told me that she wanted me to do their writing. She had told me about how, and she said it in a meeting. In fact, when she said it, I was embarrassed. I thought she was stalking me. Okay, she's just admitting that she was stalking me. She said she knows I'm a very good writer, that she searched me on the internet and saw my writings and everything. She told me all the things that she wanted me to really do, and all that. So it was a lot of impressive stuff that she was telling me, and so I said, okay, since she's aware and she's saying, okay, she's gonna, make it work out. She's gonna make it work. She's gonna, uh, put me in a team that I don't have to have any interaction with this person, because that was what I was asking for. I said, you know what, I don't want to have to interact with her, right? Because initially she was like, okay, hey, what if I remain in the team and I don't interact with her? I said, I can't do that. I can't, because she got worse, and then she started making false accusations, which was surprising. That I didn't know they could just lie. This was something I learned in the federal government, at least in the DoD and the Navy, the Pentagon, that people just tell lies, you know. And if you tell lies in the federal government, it's one of the standards, one of the reasons you can be disqualified. That's what they tell you. It's in the rule book. Lack of candor, that they can fire you for that, for lying. But they just lied. They would just lie, falsify things. They would even falsify records. I was stunned. At least this team was falsifying records, right? And this was all surprising me, because at some point I had actually been, I'd noticed the falsification of records, and I started, putting it down, that, okay, documenting, and I sent it to Nathan Brown. I created a whole trail when I saw falsification of records, a whole trail. So I sent it to Nathan Brown in a trail that to show falsification of records. Because it was surprising. We're auditors. If we're auditors and we're supposed to be, preventing fraud, maintaining the integrity of the system and the operations, and we're the ones who are now falsifying records, then we're not being auditors. We're not supposed to be working as auditors. This was what I found was going on in this team. They're falsifying records, right? And so I reported it. I sent a whole trail to say, look, there's these are inconsistencies, falsification of records. You just see things. For instance, you see an invoice that says for something that's supposed to be $999. This was very specific. It was supposed to be $999. There was one ticket said $999. That was supposed to be the list price. And then there was an invoice for $9,999. I've been an auditor. That was one of the ways that we caught somebody at a previous organization I worked in. That was one of the ways that we caught somebody who was embezzling funds, right? Using falsified receipts. It's not an accident. They're hoping you won't catch it, that you just think it's a typo. But I didn't want to, speculate that okay, that this was fraud or whatever. I sent it. I showed it to Nathan R. Brown. Showed him that okay, hey, this is a huge discrepancy. He acted that like he never told me anything. He never responded. But there was a paper trail, electronic trail of the audits. They could see everything that I sent him. No falsification of records, discrepancies. So I was just stunned about what was going on, and this is the 30 minutes. Um, I will stop this video here and I'll continue. But in any event, Nephateria McBride then said, well, okay, that she wanted to keep me. She saw me as an asset, that she hates drama, that she promises there will be no drama. Um, at some point, Ruth Pollard now, shared that, oh, that Nephateria McBride had revealed my age because Nephateria McBride kept asking about my age. So was Nathan R. Brown. They started asking about my age. It was so intrusive. I didn't know what was going on. First of all, that's a violation. That's not what they're supposed to do there in my chain of command. That's something HR has. So my age now became an issue. They started asking me. Then in that meeting, Ruth Pollard now said, hey, why is Nephthera McBride pretending she doesn't know my age? That she told all of us. So I was surprised, so that was a violation of my whatever. So I quietly went and told HR, hey, what's this my age thing? Why are they discussing my age? So next year my bride laughed in a in an embarrassed way that okay, she'd been outed. And she was like, oh, she's just nosy, that she's a very nosy person, blah blah blah. So she let it go. So we settled her. She said, well, I'll move to another team and I wouldn't have to work with this person who was harassing me, right, and making false accusations. That I would move, and the harassment, I wouldn't have to suffer the toxic environment anymore. So that was where we left it. This was November the 4th. I told the Auditor General of the Navy. I sent a text to her, and she just checked it off. Okay, like gave me a thumbs up or whatever. Because the guy, so Nephateria McBride asked me to work with a guy. It was a white guy, and he was older than me, and he had been a Marine or Navy. He'd been and he spent a long time, 25 years. And right away when I started, he met me, and he gave me this like fatherly big brother advice right away. It was like, hey, this is the best place for me to be in. It's better than the private sector. People, he just told me all the things to, how to succeed, everything. And I was hoping when I met him, just the way he treated me, that I would have more interactions with him. So when she asked me that, okay, hey, will I go and work with this guy? Right away was a no-brainer because I knew he was a good guy and he'd want to see me succeed, right? So that was how we ended it. So I told the Auditor General. I think the Auditor General knew him. She gave it a thumbs up. She didn't say anything. Prior to that, the Auditor General was actually she had given me a couple of new open positions that she asked me to go to. Again, I didn't want to be jumping around, including to actually go somewhere to be an attorney in the Navy, to work as an attorney. And they didn't have, miraculously, they didn't have a requirement for me to take the bar exam. They said they didn't need me to take the bar exam. They take me they not me, but she sent it to me. She sent the position. It was there. They're looking for someone that they would take. They didn't need the bar exam, and they'd start them off as an attorney, which was bizarre. It's a federal government. They could do whatever it is that they want, and so it was It was a great opportunity, but I thought, no, let me stay because this job seemed very interesting, right? And I thought, okay, let me succeed where I am first before I move. I can't just keep jumping around. I didn't know what was going to go and happen there, so I didn't. So I'm going to stop this video here and continue it in a third part. My name is Olurotimi Osha. I'll keep you posted.